Hi, this is Bird from Birds SVGs, and in this video we'll be putting together the Gingerbread House Advent Calendar, and that's from the Countdown to Christmas SVG collection. So not only is this a gingerbread house and it would be cool as just home decor, but also it's usable, which is my favourite thing, because you can use it and fill it up with some chocolates or sweet treats for the lead up to Christmas to help with the excitement. So we'll begin by putting our basic internal structure together, and then we'll be adding layers and shelves and drawers to it as we go along. So first of all, join your two roof panels, and those are the pieces without the icicles. And then you want to start with your back panel. We're folding along all of the score lines as we go to make sure that we get our edges lined up nice and squarely. And then we're going to be popping on our side panels. Just going to line up. Then we're going to add on our other side panel. And then before we add the front panel on, it's best to add your little porch into place. So I'm just going to fold along the score lines a moment, and then I'm just going to fold along my porch, pop it together, and then slide it into place into my front. So you just want to fold along all the tabs. Okay, then all you need to do is add some glue to the two tabs, the two rectangular tabs for the top of your porch. And then do the other one. Okay, and that's pretty much all we need to do before we pop it into place. Now the back tabs need to actually be folded outwards, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be popping some glue onto those and then sliding it behind our front and attaching it from behind so we can't see the tabs. Okay, so we're sliding it up as far as it will go and then putting some pressure down just to make sure that all the glue's taken hold and it's nice and in place. And then we can join up all the outside edges of our house. So we just now need to join this to the two sides. And then the last tab here, and then that's our main internal body all joined up. Right, our next step is to pop the base into place. And you've got two pieces, and one is ever so slightly smaller, and that's your inside. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add some glue to the flap on the back edge. And then I'm going to put that onto my base card. Make sure that it's square. And then that's kind of like a hinge then. So that gives you time to add glue to all the other three sides, including your porch. And that makes it a lot easier then because it's kind of being held. So it's held at the back there, and then we can just work on getting the other edges lined up. You've got those tiny tabs at the bottom of the porch. You want to make sure that they're in the right place, and that basically your house is lined up with the edge of that base. Mine was actually a little bit off on that corner, so I'm just popping a little bit more glue in there and putting it down again, because with obviously PVA glue you've got a little bit of wiggle room to shift around. Now we've got our inside piece. I'm being careful to make sure that this goes in textured side up, but it doesn't really matter because nobody gets to see this piece. It actually takes 25 pieces of brown cardstock to create this gingerbread house. So if you've only got 24, this is the piece to cut in a different colour. Okay, I'm just going to slide that in, make sure it's seated into the porch properly, and then just run my finger around and make sure that it's all the glue is taking hold. Now we can move on to I've been calling them pockets, but they're kind of shelves really. But first of all, I want to find the one for the porch because that's the largest one. Now, if you look at the comparison, the other ones of the same style, they're a little bit smaller. So you'll be easily be able to tell which one is the one to go into your porch. Okay, now it's kind of like a little box. So you want to close up the one end that's got the square piece on it. But what we're going to do with these, because we want the textured side to be within the shelf or within the pocket, is we're going to have the textured side on the inside and we're going to have all of the tabs on the outside. So we're taking care here. It seems really strange when you do it to be putting the glue on the textured side of your card. It seems wrong when you're doing it, but that's the right way to do it. And all your tabs, you want them to be on the outside because you don't want any of your tabs to be on the inside for your shelves or your drawers to snag on them. Okay, now these top tabs here, you've only got 3 of them, and that's because the bottom edge is the base of the house. So you've got 3 external tabs that attach to the outside of our house. So you slide it into place. We've added some glue behind our tabs. I'm just adding a little bit more. It doesn't seem to want to take immediately here. But I'm just adding a little bit of pressure, adding a little bit more glue if needed. And it can be handy to try, although it's a little bit tricky on the porch, I realise, but it can be handy to get one hand on the inside if you can and put some pressure on from the inside and the outside. Okay, so now we're going to be working on the other square boxes because we've got some slanted boxes in a moment. Now again, you want the textured side of your card to be on the inside and you want your flaps to be on the outside, or your tabs to be on the outside. So I'm using a bone folder to put some pressure down, and then I'll pop a finger in and to make sure the corners are holding well, and just to make sure that it's working. And then what we need to do is put some glue on the back side of those tabs, slide it into our little hole, and then attach it on the outside of our house. So later on we'll have layers that will cover over these tabs and you won't see them. So those tabs will be secured between the 2 layers. They'll be sandwiched, and so they'll be firmly in place. So again, we'll do one more square pocket. Again, texture on the inside, tabs on the outside. So we're closing it up as though it's a box on the end with the square. And the little tabs that go on the outside of the house, we add glue on the back of those, so when we slide it into our house, the tabs will glue to the outside of our house. I'm just popping this one into the other side of the porch. Now I've got my hand on the inside as well as my hand on the outside, so I'm trying to add pressure between my hands. So I'm not, I'm aware that I don't want to buckle the house at all. So I've gone round and I've added all of these square pockets or shelves because they're along the front and the lower sides of our house. Now when it comes to the roof, these pockets or shelves are slanted. So there's a slightly different shaped piece. They look like this, but the method is the same. So we want the textured side of the card to be on the inside, and we want our flaps or our tabs to be on the outside again, and we'll be closing it up on the side that's got the square piece. So we're folding our tabs outwards, adding some glue so they can then fold in and glue on the outside, pushing down with a bone folder And then when I think the glue's got a little bit of a hold, I pick it up and I put my fingers inside and add some pressure to the little corners just to make sure that it's all working. It's all taken hold and it's all closed up nicely. So again, we're adding glue to the behind edge of the tabs, and then we're sliding it into the hole. And even though it's a slanted one, all we need to do is make sure that the shorter end is facing upwards in our roof. So we want the longer end of our shelf to be downwards and the shorter end to be upwards. So we'll do another one again. Textured side inside. Our tabs are to be glued on the outside. So bend those tabs backwards, pop that square in, add some glue and then pop the tabs on the outside of that square. So from the inside there's no tabs showing, so it'll be nice and smooth for your drawer to go in and out. It won't snag on any of those. And there you can see the drawer, or the pocket should I say, or the shelf, getting my terms muddled up. Because it's slanted, there's a longer side and a shorter side, and you want the shorter side to be upwards in the roof, and you want the longer side to be at the bottom. But with the roof, it's kind of easier to pop these in because you can just flip the roof over and then push down against your desk. So those go in great. So I'm carrying on and I'm adding all of my slanted tabs to my roof. Just popping the last one in here. And again, the shorter side is upwards towards the point in your roof, is the shorter side. And that's so the two sides will come together and your shelves will be straight. They'll be at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so now we've got the layers for our roof, and this is going to provide the base of our icicles, and it will cover over all of those tabs. So what I'm going to do is there's a little score line there just above the icicles, so I'm just folding over above where the icicles are. Now your one will actually have icicles on 3 sides. This one's only got 2 sides. It's just a small adjustment I made after I did the video. So we're going to add some glue to the back of this roof layer. I'm starting with the layer that's got the tab, as that will go underneath the one that doesn't have the tab. And I'm adding glue all around where my little pockets will go. Just adding a good amount of glue to the whole area, but not too much. Now the most important thing when adding this to your roof is to line it up where the little pockets are. So that's the only thing you need to remember is... Lily's come to join in. So you just need to use your fingers to line up the edges of the holes in the roof panel with where the pockets are on the inside. And then press down on the rest of the area and that will fall into place. Okay, so we'll get the second roof layer, and again we'll fold along just above where the icicles are. This has got 2 rows of icicles, but yours will have icicles on 3 sides. And then after we've done that, we'll add some glue. We want to add the glue all around where the pockets go, just so it doesn't lift away at that point. And then again, when we offer this up to our roof, we want to you pop your fingers in and line up the holes with where the outsides of the pockets are. That's the most important piece to line up. The rest of it will fall into place. So you can just pop it over, add a little pressure from the inside and just make sure that's all taken hold. I even got a bone folder in there between the little pockets. So I'm just making sure that's nice and in place. I'm happy that the glue has taken hold everywhere. And then I'm going to fold over the front edge of my icicles there. And there's just a little crossover piece that you want to add some glue to. Now on my piece here, I've got that crossover on the front. On your piece, you'll have it on the back too. So just repeat it on the back. And then you've got this white icicle layer that will go over that front section. But you'll have two pieces identically. One will go on the back as well. And what I'm doing is kind of flicking the glue down each icicle. So it's kind of heavier at the top of the icicle and then thinner at the bottom. And that seemed to work quite well for me. So you want to line this up with the icicles. And that will fall into place. Just add a little bit of pressure all the way down. And then when I'm happy with that, we can start working on the detail layers. Now these look a lot more scary than they are. Because all I did with these pieces was, well, first of all here, I was going to fold along the score line above the icicles, but it's a bit delicate to do that. So just take a straight edge, hold it against that line, and then run your finger along underneath the icicles, and that seemed to work a trick. So what I'm doing is I'm adding some glue around the outside edge of this whole piece, and then also I'm going around the pockets, as long as you do that. So if you do down by the icicles and then do around the external border and then around the pockets, that will actually be enough to hold it in place. You can do a few dots here and there, but absolutely do not try and attempt to put glue on all of these detail pieces, because where you start will dry out before you get to the end. So again, I'm just flicking down the icicles, and then you get a heavier bit at the top and it kind of trails off down the icicle, which is just kind of right for what you need. Now this piece lines up with the edge, but the main thing again is that the pockets line up. So I'm putting my fingers inside and making sure that the edge lines up with my pockets, and then I'm just smoothing the rest of it down. And then I can do the same on the other side. So again, you want to fold along that line, but just use a straight edge and then pop your finger under the icicles and run it along the straight edge, and it will just kind of kink it enough. So I'm adding some glue to my icicles, just flicking it down each one. And then I'm going to add glue around the perimeter of this whole piece. And then I'm going to make sure that I run a little bit around the outside of the pockets. And that's enough to hold it in place. I haven't gone back and added any more anywhere. It's sitting just fine. So pop your fingers in, line up your pockets, and then you can smooth the rest of it into place. And that's your roof completed. We'll be working on the drawers to go on our roof in a moment. So we've got the layers for the house base. So this is the layer for the back. Adding a little bit of glue all over. Then I'm just going to line up the edges and then smooth it all over from the inside. And again, this is the front. So we've got some cut out pieces for each of the little pockets on the porch. So I'm just going to slide it over the porch, and then the rest of it is in place already. Just smoothing it down. And then I'm flipping it over, and I'm trying to make sure that the glue's kind of taking hold. And then we've got our side pieces. And again, you want to make sure that you've put glue around all of the pockets, because you don't want any of it kind of pulling away from your pockets. Now these can only go one way round, and you can't put them on upside down, so they can literally only go on one side, the right way up. So I'm getting my bone folder, getting in there between the pockets and putting some pressure down onto my desk. And here's the last layer. After we pop this on the last side, we can then get working on our little drawers. And there again, you're lining up your pockets, and then everything else is already in place. So you can just smooth it down. And then if need be, get a bone folder in there in between the little pockets. Ah, yes, I forgot. We've got the layer for our porch, of course, to cover up the tabs on the front of the porch. And then we can pop, we've got a couple of small pieces to go on the kind of porch roof, I guess you'd call it. I'm just pushing down here on the inside of the porch area. I'm just pushing down against the desk for it to take hold. So here's the little roof for the porch, and this has got icicles, and there's a little score line above where the icicles are, but not on the side icicles. They don't have a score line above them. Now you've got a little crossover area, so just add some glue and let that take hold. And then here's your white piece to go on the front. Again, flick the glue upwards and that'll be enough. And then we've got a decorative panel to go on the top of our porch. So add some glue down the two sides and on the icicles, and you want to look at the icicles to figure out which way round it goes. It will be obvious. Okay, I'm going to add some glue to the inside. Actually, I'm not going to because it overhangs. So I decide to add some glue to the top of my porch. And I can just pop it on and smooth it down. Oh, it's starting to take shape now. Okay, we're ready to pop the roof into place. You might find that some of your icicles try to jump on the inside, but that's no problem once you've got them out. Once the roof's on your advent calendar, it never really needs to come off again. Okay, there we are. Everything's done. We can start working on our little drawers. So the first one we're going to start with is the one that goes into the porch. Now this is number 24. So this is the biggest one. And you'll know it because it's bigger and it's also got 2 holes in the front. So we're just going to close up our box. So fold along all of your tabs and then glue your front and your back into place. These are ever so simple to go together. So each of your little drawers comes in 3 pieces. So you've got your little drawer, and then you've got a front panel which is larger. That's kind of like your stopper, so it doesn't, go any further in to your house. And then you've got your detail piece, which is kind of supposed to be the icing. Now this one is the odd one out because it's in the shape of a door. So it's nice and large, it's easy to find. And then when you put your little drawer fronts onto your drawers, you'll want to line up the little square, so the little holes. Now they're squares, so you can get them on them squarely. I mean 90 degrees. So all of your drawer fronts should all be square, and all should all look fairly uniform, because you'd want to line up the little square. It's not a circle where it can pivot. And then pop some brads in, pop it into place, and then it really brightens your gingerbread house up once you get all the little white drawer fronts on. Now again, remember we had 2 different shapes of pockets. We had the square ones and the slanted ones. So now we've got 2 different shapes of drawers to go inside. So we're going to start with a square one here. So we're just closing up our box where we folded along the tabs, added glue, and then glued it to our front and back. Now we take one of the little drawer fronts, we pop it into place, lining up the square hole. And then we pick one of the numbers to put on the front of our drawer. Now I wanted my numbers to run from 1 to 24 in succession. So I wanted them to all line up next to each other. So I had to be a little bit careful about which number I put on what style of drawer, whether it was a square one or a slanted one. But if you want a random look, then it doesn't matter. Okay, we're now going to put together one of the little slanted drawers. So we're folding again along all of the tabs. And we're adding some glue to the longest tabs first, and then the shorter ones, and pop the back of the drawer into place. I'll do another one of those in a moment. We're adding some glue onto the front. All of the drawer fronts are identical. It's only the drawers themselves that differ. And then I'm picking the right number to go on one of my little slanted drawers to go on the roof. Popping that into place. Then I need to add a brad into the little hole. So you will actually need 25 brads in all because you'll need 24 drawers, and there's 2 in number 24. And they slide in and they're completely flush with the roof. Okay, so I do another slanted drawer. So fold along all of the score lines and then add some glue to the longest tab. And then add them to the shorter tabs to put the back into place. Now we'll pop our front on, make sure that our hole is square, matching. And then I need to pick the right number. Pop it on, just lining up the edges. pop a brad in, then that can go in next to number 1. Okay, I'll do another square one. So you fold along the score lines, put glue on your tabs, and then fold up your front and back. Literally the most difficult thing about this is picking your numbers where you want them to go, and so it goes together nice and easily. Okay, so I'll carry on and do all the rest of my little drawers, but there's one piece I forgot to add on earlier on. Now this is the trim for the very top of your roof. It's not necessary, but it's a nice finishing for the top point of your roof here. And then I'll carry on and get the rest of my drawers done. So now they're all done, they're all in place, they're all in line, nice and orderly. But like I say, you can put your numbers, or oh, some of them just drop out, look. And I hope you have fun filling these up with treats or chocolates, and I hope the children or people in your family just have great fun going to this every day on the lead up to Christmas, and I hope it's part of the excitement and part of your festivities.